Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful friends and loyal listeners. It's always such a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly does make it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, guys, not a Z. And remember that we're now on TV. Tune in at watch.kpmedia.tv and catch A Moment of Zen on the Impact Live channel Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Remember, all episodes are now available on demand. We have such a great show lined up for you today. In our influencer segment brought to us by ogpay.com, we are featuring Jianna Bonomi, a near-death experience survivor, former pro athlete, and an inspirational fitness model. She's here to chat on how she went from wheelchair to warrior. In our Innovation and Tech segment brought to us by Caldwell Soames, we have returning contributor Paul Caldwell, Chairman and CEO of Caldwell Soames. And today we're chatting with Kevin Jackson, CEO and founder of GovCloud Network, a USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestselling author who is currently leading the Total Network Services blockchain initiative with their Universal Communication Identifier technology, which is the largest implementation of blockchain for US governmental use. It's called the E.M.O.X project. Today, we're chatting about use cases for non-fungible tokens and blockchains across various business platforms and what the tokenization process really means for us consumers. In my Healthy Minutes segment brought to you by Revere Securities, we are featuring Dr. Elizabeth Federick, a PhD licensed professional counselor and founder at Evolve Counseling and Behavioral Health Services. Now, today we're chatting mental health and the ongoing battle we face in America, as today, guys, also marks a huge milestone in the fight against mental health disorders. Yep, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number transitioned finally to 988 to make help seeking in a moment of crisis so much more accessible. In our Crypto Frontier segment brought to us by CCP Digital, we are featuring CEO of CCP Digital, Chris Pulley, and he is joined by his good friend, Eben Matthews, co-founder of Macroverse.world, a multi-format entertainment company. We're chatting about the coming of Web 3.0, entertainment studios, what role blockchain plays in the future of entertainment, and how Web3 is creating opportunities for global participation in the entertainment industry. We'll be right back with our influencer segment brought to you by OGPay, featuring Jianna Bonomi. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Tempus, the next generation of the engagement economy, allowing people to make money on their data and earn cryptocurrency for the time they spend on things they already currently love to do. With Tempus, brands will have the ability to pay you directly for interacting with apps, watching videos, playing games, and more. Tempus, the time is now. Engage and earn.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, up in just a few minutes, we have our influencer segment brought to you by OGPay. And today we are featuring Jianna Bonomi, a near-death experience survivor, inspirational fitness model, a holistic healer, and an alchemist specialist. Now, before her rising phoenix story, and she has quite the story, she was a professional athlete, beginning her career at 6 years old and getting recruited and offered a full ride scholarship from over 20 Division I programs. She played indoor volleyball at the University of San Diego and beach volleyball at the University of Arizona. She represented California in the Californian Polynesian All-Stars and was nominated for the City of Lakewood's Youth Hall of Fame. She was even asked to represent the United States on the USA Women's Collegiate National Volleyball team. Yet, she claims that most of her strength comes from an event that placed her at her weakest mentally, emotionally, and physically. That's right. In July of 2018, she was hit head-on by a drunk driver going 90 miles an hour. She claims that she remembered everything, including the moment where she no longer was in her body. She suffered from shattered feet, pulmonary embolisms in both lungs, 3 broken ribs, a broken wrist, concussions, multiple lacerations all over her body, and was bleeding internally from a 3rd-degree lacerated liver. Wow. Here to chat on how she went from wheelchair to warrior is the beautiful Jianna. Welcome to the show, Stunner.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
First of all, God bless you, and may you continue to be strong and healthy and fight for your spirit to remain at ease. Now, let's chat about your near-death experience for a moment, because I believe that it will inspire others.
Absolutely. I always say, you know, my story is definitely not boring. It is a miracle. And from the beginning, I was told by doctors, you know, from the first second, it is a miracle that you are alive. Getting hit in an accident at 40 miles per hour in general is a big deal versus getting hit head on at 90. You definitely have a story. So I know that I'm meant to be here for a larger purpose, for sure.
You sure are. And due to advances in resuscitation and critical care medicine, many people have survived encounters with death. And these people, such as yourself, are estimated to comprise hundreds of millions of people around the world based on population studies. And you have consistently described and recalled experiences surrounding death, which involve a unique set of mental recollections with very universal themes. Talk to me about your experience.
Absolutely. You know, when I recall my experience, it's often challenging to find words to really express, because words, you know, we created them. It's human creation. But I vividly remember the dissociation from my body. So my ears could hear what was going on, but where my spirit was completely quiet. And so having that knowledge, it was definitely a knowing that I wasn't in my body anymore. And so hearing kind of that dissociation of, I heard the metal, I felt my body hitting the every part of the car. And I knew that I only had about 2 more seconds left. And so that separation, I mean, I knew wherever I was, it was a very peaceful place. Yet I knew that I wasn't done here, and I decided to come back.
Wow, I got chills. Okay, so you were in the ICU for a few days, and over a month, you split your time between Cedars-Sinai and Hoag Rehabilitation Hospital. Talk to me about your recovery.
That was definitely, I mean, my recovery was definitely the most challenging experience that I have ever gone through. And we're talking about, you know, being an athlete at like 6 years old and being pushed mentally, physically, emotionally since I was a child. And that was definitely one of the most challenging, because you go from identifying with your body and your body's ability to perform, and all of a sudden you're requiring 4 to 5 nurses to help sit you up inch by inch in bed. So to say it was humbling is an understatement. But you know, you learn how strong you are in your weakest moments.
Yes. And you were told by doctors that you would never be able to return to an active lifestyle ever again. And you defied their diagnosis in 2 years, being one of the first partially disabled cast members on Beachbody's Muscle Burns Fat. And then you were rebooked for the cast of Muscle Burns Fat Advanced. Talk to me about how being part of that cast has helped you heal. We have about 4 minutes, but I want to get it all in.
I was so excited to have that opportunity. To be honest, I just said yes. And I didn't know if I was able to do some of the requirements asked of me. And I just jumped in and said, you know, I'm going to give it all that I can. And I may or may not be able to, but who knows if you don't try.
Who knows if you don't try? Exactly. Now, 3 years later, this gets even crazier. You were the victim of another hit and run accident, and it's like lightning striking the same person twice. Dear Lord, talk to me about what setbacks that caused and how you coped.
That one was tough. That one was going back to reliving one of the darkest parts of my life. But again, healing for me, it's cyclical. It's not linear. So the more that you go through something and come back around, the deeper of an understanding that you have about yourself, about life, about what you believe in. And so that gave me really the opportunity to solidify the beliefs that I had cultivated in the first accident, but really just strengthen them and really know that my story is meant to help shape people's lives and to provide hope and light in a place of darkness.
You are an inspiration. What is your current disability right now as a result of both these accidents?
So I am technically partially disabled. I could have a handicap pass, but I choose not to. I have limited mobility in my feet. So I had 3 plates and 18 screws in my right foot and 1 plate and 8 screws in my left foot. And I wasn't really able to, I wasn't supposed to be able to run or jump or whatnot. And I'm defying that currently and continuing to push myself every day to kind of what I like to say, a flirt with the edges and see what you're made of.
Of course, of course. Now talk to me about how you're helping others and what your mission is.
I am very passionate about empowering others. Of course, I have my soft spot for my women out there, but I also, anyone that's looking to heal. And simply put, I just remind you of your power. That's all. I just remind you of what's possible. And, I am no different than anyone else. I know that my story can help expand people's mindsets and their own view on their own quote unquote limitations. I always say quote unquote because I don't believe that we're limited.
I couldn't agree more. We are definitely not limited, and you are living proof of that. So now talk to me about muscle burns fat. And guys, to be completely clear, no, muscle doesn't directly burn fat. Instead, the fat molecules have to be converted into glucose. Then your muscle will be able to use it for fuel, AKA burn it. But talk to me about muscle burns fat and what that program is.
Muscle Burns Fat is Beachbody. It was actually launched during the pandemic. So it was Beachbody's first HIT program that was available to everyone who was looking to work out during the pandemic. And what we did, it was over a course of 6 weeks. I was waking up doing, we actually filmed 2 workouts a day. So 2 40-minute HIT workouts a day, 1 30-minute break. And it really just pushes you physically, mentally, emotionally, which is sort of the narrative of my story. So being able to be a part of that was amazing. And just, I loved the cast. I loved the Beachbody family, and I love the opportunity to share more.
Well, I love you, and I would love to learn from you. So I would be one of those fans, definitely signing up. We're out of time, but I just want to thank you for coming on. You are such an inspiration, such a bright light, and beautiful inside and out, and continue healing.
Thank you so much.
That was Jianna Bonomi, and that was our influencer segment brought to us by ogpay.com. Definitely check her out on the gram at Jianna Bonomi, or you can head to teambeachbody.com, and you can also check them out on the gram at Beachbody and at Muscle Burns Fat. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. In our innovation and tech segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames, we have our returning contributor, Paul Caldwell, chairman and CEO of Caldwell Soames. And today we're chatting with Kevin Jackson. He served in the US Navy for 15 years before becoming a senior business exec in the computer industry. He's currently the CEO and founder of GovCloud Network, a consultancy formed to assist agencies and businesses properly leverage cloud computing. He's also a USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. He's currently leading the TNS blockchain initiative with UCID and the largest implementation of blockchain for US government EMMA project. Now let me break that down for you to help you understand better. Total Network Services, that goes by the acronym TNS, is an ecosystem of apps and technologies enabling the new blockchain economy. Now, the US Census Bureau, United States Department of Commerce, is undertaking a massive digital transformation in preparation for the 2030 census. The United States government is implementing the electronic medical mobile application, going by the acronym EMMA, to modernize the filing of workers' compensation, property, and tort claims. Utilizing TNS's Universal Communication Identifier, UCID, making this the largest government use case of blockchain technology to date. Pretty impressive stuff. Today, we're chatting about use cases for non-fungible tokens and blockchains across various business platforms and what the tokenization process really means for consumers. Now, as they get settled into the broadcast room, let's chat EMMA, Electronic Medical Mobile Application. The use of EMMA is meant to update and secure a census process that is well known for its redundancies and inefficiencies. While the 500,000 field employees who are deployed throughout the country to collect data rely on smartphones to document and report their findings, the system is in definite need of streamlining. And here to chat some more are my experts at hand. Welcome to the show, Paul and Kevin.
Hello.
Okay, Kevin, so this implementation of EMMA really has the potential to solve many of the problems that employees experience both in the field and at the Census Bureau, as well as really enhance software security. That's at the core of it all, device legitimacy and data validity through the use of blockchain via UCID. Talk to me about what these changes truly mean and how is TNS using blockchain to revolutionize the space?
Well, great. Thank you very much. I mean, a lot of people have heard of blockchain, mostly around cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. And, today the big craze is NFTs, people trading crypto kitties and Bored Ape. But the foundational technology to NFTs is blockchain, and it is really a digital ledger. It's sort of like a huge Excel spreadsheet in the cloud. And what we have done is we're leveraging blockchain to keep track of the actual devices, the smartphones and the tablets that the census users are using to make sure that they aren't like counterfeit. And that these devices are constantly attacked by malevolent actors that can change the software or even modify the data. So we can basically provide flags so that users can know that their device is real, it's not being attacked, or the software isn't being hacked.
Understood. And it's interesting because blockchain applications go far beyond cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. I mean, with its ability to create more transparency and fairness while also saving businesses time and money, this technology is truly impacting a variety of sectors in ways that range from how contracts are enforced to making government work really more efficiently. So kudos to you and your team. Paul, let's chat NFT real use cases. The NFT market has been booming with a growth rate of more than 21,000% in 2021. And most people associate NFTs with JPEG pictures of, to Kevin's point, the bored yacht Ape Club, right? The Bored Ape Yacht Club. However, putting the hype aside, NFTs can have meaningful use cases in different industries, from gaming to supply chain management. It can change the landscape in those industries significantly by providing additional streams of revenue and cost-saving mechanisms. What are some of the more obvious, real use cases for NFTs in business?
Well, first of all, Zen, I think everybody, I mean, NFT comes off the tongue so easily. Anybody and everybody talks about it, right? It's out there. It's become ubiquitous in the language. When you talk about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, you almost have to talk about NFTs as though it's, you know, obligatory or something. The reality is, back to Kevin's point, is the underlying technologies is where we really find interest. Inside our publicly traded enterprise fund or our privately held companies funds, both places we hear metaverse and NFT and blockchain. But the reality is, I think the underlying technologies and the interconnectivity, the interapplicability of those underlying technologies for real world solutions to solve real world problems is where really the rubber meets the road long term strategically. I'm not saying that collectibles isn't a great place for NFTs. In fact, I think it is a great place for NFTs, for NFT to non-fungible token technology. But there's also fungible token technology. There's also many variants of blockchain. So what we like about TNS is the way they've taken a real world problem and taken a UCID and married it onto blockchain and to solve some of these security issues. So inside our portfolio, for example, we have OG Pay, we have OG2D, we have FinTech Solutions, Blockchain Data Corp, all these companies that are working in that space. Very interesting because at least the consumer-facing technologies or solutions like OG Pay, anything that can come along or anything that's future tense now, but really being built, seriously being built, is interesting when it comes to security enhancement, enhancing the security of the platform by being able to use such a technology, for example, in the onboarding process, and then following those subscribers along for their own security, but in the background. So it's not something they have to necessarily do. It's just something that watches over and takes care of the overall ecosystem. So for us, that particular application is really important. NFTs in real world, one could think about things like tokenizing cash flows, for example. I've been in meetings with large realty management companies that are looking to tokenize the properties and things like that. So it's starting to show up, I think, more and more in commercial applications. And I think it's also starting to show up more and more in two other important spaces. One is digital rights management, and another one is the space of just authentication, because there's a lot of authentication that has to happen when you start talking about cross-platform compatibility issues in the metaverse and things like that. So we're really enthusiastic here about the applications of non-fungible token technology and related technologies.
Yeah, and exactly, like TNS, what they're doing is pretty significant. Kevin, you know, it's very interesting because he said something that was spot on. It's trust, because according to the Pew Research, American trust in government is near an all-time low. So with only 18% of Americans saying that they can trust the government to do what is right most of the time, and reasons for this distrust are numerous and really rather complex, but there's potential for blockchain to really contribute to a reversal of this trend. And a key feature of blockchain-based solutions is transparency through decentralization, allowing really participating parties to see and verify data. You know, blockchain solution for some citizen services could allow for independent verification of government claims. For example, I read not long ago that the government of Sweden, Estonia, and Georgia are experimenting with blockchain-based land registries, enabling multiple parties to securely hold copies of the registry. This model could really help quickly solve property disputes or prevent them altogether. When citizens and government share access to records, potentially for distrust decreases. What do you say to this overall concept, and what are some of the other real use cases for blockchain in businesses that is more relatable to the small business owners?
Yeah, well, one of the big things I like to expand a little bit on what Paul had mentioned is that most of our lives now really have transitioned to the virtual world. And we all know how important it is to protect your own identity, the user. We also know how important it is to protect the data by leveraging encryption. But one thing that we have failed to do is actually protect the device to ensure that the device hasn't been tampered with, or that that device is actually has provenance, a good pedigree, that it hasn't come from a bad place. And that's what tokenization and the UCID is actually doing. It gives you the ability to have that visibility into the life cycle of the device. We hope to be working with manufacturers so that when a device is born, so to speak, you have a birth certificate that includes a UCID. And now you can track that device through its life cycle to ensure that it doesn't have counterfeit parts, or that the software has not been tampered with in any way. And this becomes even more important as the Internet of Things invades our life. It's not just our smartphone or our tablet, but it's the car that we drive. It's the locks on our doors. It's the Alexa that's sitting right next to me, so to speak.
Right.
The Internet of Things, the things that are connected to the Internet outnumber humans 10 to 1 already. And they are more and more important to our lives. Just think about all of these things that you interact with every day. I'm sure people in the audience actually interact or talk to their refrigerators and their stoves. These things are all connected to the Internet. So UCID actually is one of the first technologies that enables the protection or the visibility into the life cycle of the Internet of Things.
It's brilliant, really brilliant. And as I hear you speak, we have about a minute left, and I want to just wrap up this segment. But there's countless examples of use cases, obviously, for tokenization. And what I'm hearing is the two most common for merchants and services providers use it for digital information security. So cardholder data, right, is what you just said.
Yes.
The irreversible nature of tokens really at this point offers such a high level of security that tokenization has become a prevalent method to protect cardholder data, including debit and credit card numbers. So that's extremely important. And then payment data, to Paul's point, banks, e-commerce retailers, and service providers worldwide have adopted tokenization as a way to process these payments and store payment data for future transactions. So it's really quite brilliant. This brings us to the end of this session. I want to thank both of you gentlemen for piping in here. Obviously, it's complicated stuff, but thank you so much for helping me simplify it. Paul, always a pleasure to have you. Kevin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure, Zen.
Guys, you definitely have to check them out on the internet. Head to Kevin L. Jackson, not just Kevin Jackson, Kevin L. Jackson, to hear him speak. He's on other podcasts. He's all over the internet, a professor, a New York Times bestseller. That was our innovation and tech segment brought to us by Caldwell Soames. Definitely check out ogpay.com as well. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Okay, welcome back to our innovation and tech segment brought to us by Caldwell Soames. We're chatting with our experts at hand, Paul Caldwell and Kevin Jackson. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Hello.
Thanks, Zen.
All right, Paul, let's pick it up here on this topic of tokenization, okay? So we see that this revolutionary nature of modern digital tokens with that, our data becomes even more valuable to us. By using these tokens in the place of sensitive data, companies dramatically mitigate the risk of data breach, data loss, misconfigured cloud resources, computer hacking, and so much more. There were some huge data breaches back in 2021, if we all recall correctly, some major ones. And the idea is, don't let the same happen to your business in 22. Please break down tokenization in practice for us and what that means for Web 3.0.
Thank you. I think at the end of the day, it's all about added value. I think that, and whether that added value comes in the form of additional types of security for the consumer or the businesses or the platforms or the networks, or whether that added value comes in the form of new services or new offerings that can be put together or brought to market, or new value get added to existing things that become a higher value proposition in the market, tokenization has a role to play. I think in Europe, with their GDPR standards, for example, and how they tokenize transactions is a very interesting use case to look at if you want to go back 5, 7, I guess set to 2012 now, actually 10 years now. You go back and you can see where the conversation was getting very picking up a lot of steam around tokenization of information at all levels and platforms that would be able to accept that. And then they ran into a bunch of trouble because they had credit card companies, merchant services companies that were providing card services to companies that would tokenize the card number, for example. But then if that customer wanted to go to another merchant service provider, like they wanted to leave one and go to the other could not use those tokens. They couldn't use those tokenized cards. So now a merchant's stuck because a customer is stuck because they have millions of records, millions of transaction data points, and they can't do anything with it because they can't move those tokens over to the other provider because those tokens were proprietary to the initial provider. So their tokenization is great, but it's not ubiquitous. It doesn't transfer one to another. So then technologies were started to be built out that are there today to allow for cross-platform compatibility of tokens. So tokenizing information is really not a really new thing today. It's not something that someone came up with last week. What we're seeing now is some of the outcomes that back 10 years ago were people putting things together with the end in mind, which was today. And we're starting to see that show up in the world. I think we could bet on increased and enhanced levels and types of tokenization. We're seeing some fractal things coming in. We're seeing some new tokenization technologies that are being built for quantum computing that I think are very, I'm really enthusiastic about that. Anything quantum computing, I'm enthusiastic about. But I think the tokenization and the cross-platform, the compatibility mechanisms also play very heavily, especially in things like gaming. Think about gaming. Yeah. I mean, if you want to have your own persona in gaming and you spend all this time, energy, effort, money in building out your you, and then all of a sudden now you want to take your you to another game to play, well, there has to be some way to authenticate you onto that other game. It's not just this NFT version of you now, or you button it up into an NFT and move it over here and then unbutton it over there and now you can play. There's so much that goes on in the underlying technologies that make that stuff happen. It sounds great on a pitch deck. It sounds great when people come in here and pitch us in our boardroom on what they're going to do next quarter with metaverse, right, in their company or whatever. But there's a lot of underlying technology that's just in its infancy at the moment.
Yeah, lots of complicated stuff. Kevin, you want to pipe in here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what he's bringing up is this need for cross-chain interoperability. So when you say blockchain, all blockchains aren't the same. And in fact, I can go out today and create a brand new blockchain with my own technology. The underlying theory is the same, but the implementation is different. And if you create something on my blockchain, you may not be able to take it to an Ethereum blockchain or a XYZ blockchain. because of the lack of cross-chain interoperability. Actually, that's becoming even more important as our virtual lives become just as important, if not more important in some ways, to our physical lives. Our virtual assets, you need to be able to have portability of your virtual assets from one blockchain to another blockchain. And that's another reason why we actually developed the UCID, because we are using an identity as an anchor that's anchored in a physical device. So we can actually leverage the UCID to keep track of both physical assets and virtual assets, and also to ensure cross-chain interoperability by doing things like hashing the software. And once the software goes from one chain to another chain, rehashing to ensure that there hasn't been any change or modification as it goes from one blockchain to another blockchain. So these things are underlying technological improvements to the use of tokenization.
Very brilliant stuff, because now if you're thinking of it, like if you think of, and right, our supply chain, right? So NFTs really can be used to improve supply chain operations by storing metadata of products into the blockchain, which prevents data elimination and unauthorized data manipulation. And it can really enable end-to-end tracking of the goods from their origin to the destination. So for example, right, we have Coin Earth. It's a startup that creates enterprise NFTs that enable the tracking of physical goods and documents across the supply chain. But this has such potential if you combine it with this technology that you're currently talking about to poof, just go to that exponential next level for Web3. So quite brilliant. Music as well, right? I mean, you could NFTs have the potential to change the music industry significantly. So does your technology, because artists can now leverage the NFTs to tokenize their songs and albums, sell the digital merchandise to create additional sources of income. This is really provide royalties to creators, artists, and producers. And then if you combine that with the technologies that you're presenting to the world, it's limitless. And so for that reason, looking under the hood the way I know they do at Caldwell Soames, when they're looking at these companies that are not only having, you don't only have a technology that backs up and supports everything that you say you can do, but you are truly solving real world issues. And I think that's the core of Web3.
One of the things you brought up, maybe inadvertently, is the licensing of intellectual capital and data. Today, music, movies are pirated, and up to 60% of the value or revenue from a creative product is lost because the creator can't manage or prevent it from being pirated. Now, with technology like the UCID, you can actually license not only the user, but the device that the content can be played on, and leveraging geospatial fencing technology, you can restrict where that content can actually be accessed.
Wow.
So by using sort of this triple threat of authentication, creators can get their royalties that they're due.
I love it. I love it. This is fabulous, brilliant stuff. Paul, you brought in an awesome guest. Paul, let's talk about very quickly. We have about like 2-3 minutes left, but I want to talk about fashion NFTs and how they can be used as collectible pieces. And really now we need to be securing a lot of these transactions really in the metaverse. But if you're really looking at it from the bird's eye view, they can be used as virtual garments, right? These NFTs, these collectible pieces. I'm going to give you some great examples with Gucci and what they're doing, but they can be used as virtual garments that someone can wear while meeting a friend, partying, or attending a meeting. And fashion brands have now started experimenting with NFTs. For instance, Gucci sold a digital-only bag on Roblox. Roblox, as we know, is metaverse space for $4,000 and change. Dolce & Gabbana creatively combined the physical and the virtual world world when they auctioned their 9-piece NFT for $5.5 million. And this included 5 physical pieces with NFT versions for metaverse and 4 digital-only pieces. Talk to me, Paul, about how a technology like UCDI. Now I'm starting to confuse my acronyms. Talk to me about how this technology, coupled with the backings of, say, an OG Pay, can really secure the user experience and be able to take your clothing out of roadblocks that belongs to Gucci and interoperably blend it and securely own it in another metaverse land.
Hey, it's easy to get your acronyms back. in this space, so easy. Well, that's a lot to unpack in one minute, but
no, you have more than a minute.
Okay. So the idea is that yes, there's a lot of that going on. We're enthusiastic about Paula Martin's brand, for example, because we're involved with that in our portfolio, and we love what they're doing with blockchain, with NFTs, with unique designs that their designers create down in Brazil, and they bring all of that wonderful design to the world, and they NFT the scarves and the clothing. And the reason they do that is because they understand that if you buy a pair of those shoes, you may also want to wear those shoes virtually sometime in the metaverse, or in some other digital representation of that product, some other use case for it. And that may be cross platforming it into another, one environment to another at some point. So it doesn't start there in the metaverse. It actually starts with a designer that has enough forethought to bring that question to the conversation when they're developing and they're beginning and they're starting up their digital footprint, their digital representation of their brands. And I think that's the really interesting place. I see all the big houses have been doing it for some time, as you said, and I think it's really creative, the things they can do. They have an advantage to a point when it comes to leveraging the value of their existing brand already. They have existing brand value. I think companies that are finding really interesting and unique ways to leverage these technologies is where I'm most really interested. Companies like Organo, who just won a global award for the most innovative and best organic coffee product.
Wow. Okay.
And it's interesting, right? So how does that tie in? Well, what they do is they put a QR code on their product. That's the innovative part, but you scan the QR code and the blockchain brings together all the data about that coffee product, where it was made, an interview with the farmer, wow. The good manufacturing practices certificates, the organic certificates, halal, kosher, all of their certs, everything about that product now comes to your phone with one scan. So it dramatically improving consumer confidence, the potential for consumer confidence about a particular product and a particular brand. And that brand is in 30 plus countries, so it can impact a lot of people. So I think it's about existing brands that have not traditionally been thought of as technology enabled, if you will. Yeah. And then you take it to that whole next level. What if that product, as an example, or Paula Martin's or Gucci or the ones that you mentioned, what if they could then make one of their product attributes a form of the UCID? What if that could happen? Think about that. So it's not just about a phone that gets manufactured and has an EMEI or whatever, all these different things that are built in to identify the phone. Right. There are a lot of digital technologies that are now, as you mentioned, Zen, being built into consumer packaged goods, into fashion, into consumable brewed beverage products, all kinds of things. What if then you could take the same technology and enable these products? I think the ability to reduce waste and fraud and abuse of these brands and these products goes up exponentially when you begin to actually use things like, right. The TNS and these folks are put together.
Yeah, it's actually pretty incredible. Well, this brings us to another end of our segment. I want to thank you both for joining us. We're out of time. love to have you back on again, Kevin. You're full of insight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Paul, so nice to have you back.
Thanks, Zen. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Guys, check out Total Network Services. They're on the web. Great ecosystem of apps and technologies really enabling the new blockchain economy. Definitely check them out. Also, check out Kevin L. Jackson, full of knowledge. He has a great populated link tree, and he will be able to give you insight on anything going on in the metaverse, Web3, blockchain technology, just a plethora of knowledge. That was our Innovation and Tech segment brought to us by Caldwell Soames. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Revere Securities. Revere is committed to building a relationship of trust in which they work closely with you to help you define your objectives, explore alternatives, and choose the financial and investment strategies that are most appropriate for you. Go to reveresecurities.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our My Healthy Minutes segment brought to you by Revere Securities, we are featuring Dr. Elizabeth Federick, a PhD licensed professional counselor. She's an influencer of sorts in the mental health services industry. And to add wowness to accomplishment, she is also the founder at Evolve Counseling and Behavioral Health Services, a private practice in Gilbert, Arizona, providing counseling services for children, adults, and families. Now, they specialize in treating depression, anxiety, trauma, relationship issues, grief, and life transitions. And she's going to be coming on in just a few to chat mental health and the ongoing battle we face in America. Now, today marks a milestone in the fight against mental health disorders. That's right. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number transitioned to 988 today to make help seeking in a moment of crisis more accessible. Now, experts have expressed concern that the lifeline is going to struggle to meet demands due to the increase in youth suicide rates during the COVID-19 pandemic. And suicide ideation are major public health crises that can affect anyone, particularly our young people. And according to the National Institute of Mental Health, suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the United States and the second leading cause of death among youngsters aged 10 to 34. Wow. Now, the U.S. Surgeon General and the American Academy of Pediatrics have acknowledged the growing youth mental health crisis that's been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic and disproportionately affected youth of color and LGBTQIA. Now, when former President Trump signed the National Suicide Hotline Designation Act of 2020 into law, plans were set in motion for a mental health emergency hotline. Well, guess what, guys? Today, President Biden has since awarded $105 million to states and territories to strengthen crisis call centers services to prepare for the transition to 988 as part of the administration's mental health strategy. And here to chat some more is Dr. Elizabeth Federick. Welcome to the show, Supermama.
Hi, Zen. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's dive right into it because this is a major, major issue. And we now know that they're shortening the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number to 988. And this is going to make getting help in a crisis more accessible. But experts have expressed concern that not all call centers are prepared. What do you say to this?
And I think that's completely accurate. I don't think that even currently there's just not enough people. There's not enough people to pick up the phone, to respond for the rate that we're seeing, how much there's an increase. And as you said, among the younger population, for sure, it's happening. The quality, though, the really benefit of this is that it's not just about texting that or calling that number. It's also about texting the 998. Is that? Yes. And so that is for this younger generation to be able to text that as opposed to having to pick up and call, knowing that that's their, communication method of choice. There's actually a lot of value in that. And hopefully because of the texting as well, this will they'll be able to reach a broader audience with this because they can respond with multiple text messages at once. So you're absolutely correct. There is a concern that there's not going to be enough mental health professionals to keep up with this. But the idea as a whole is brilliant and I think will be really beneficial.
Well, I couldn't agree more that it would be beneficial. And I could also not agree more that there's just, an underhanded sentiment of, well, we got phase one into effect, but now phase two, like you said, is finding that trained help. We know that in June of this year, of 2022, research from the National Academy for State Health Policy assessed state by state readiness for the rollout of 988 and found that only 21 states had enacted legislation to implement and provide funding for the new hotline. And we know for a fact that our youth is in crisis. Just recently, the adolescent behaviors and experiences recent research showed that the overall teen suicide rate had increased during the pandemic overall. So we're seeing staggering numbers here. But let's move on to childhood. And this is kind of one of the areas that you specialize in. And as a mom, as a fellow mom, we know that, our youth is really, it's a silent killer, and it's affecting children of all ages. So, childhood is often believed to be this carefree period of life with none of the stresses or anxieties that come with the difficulties of adulthood. But the fact is, however, that mental health issues in children are very common, right? And in fact, 50% of diagnosable mental disorders begin by the age of 14, along with anxiety disorders, major depression, and bipolar disorder. Dr. Federick, please help me and help America understand what our kids may not be saying.
Yes, and it's so important because a lot of times kids don't have the verbiage. They don't have the ability to communicate what's going on for them, especially if they're in homes that potentially the parents don't have a template to know how to show up emotionally. They don't know how to meet these emotional needs. They don't know how to communicate in the way that their youth needs. This exacerbates the concern because then the youth feels as though they have nowhere to turn. And we really see anxiety start, we work with children as young as 3, 4. We see these symptoms really begin early on. And it has a lot to do with environment, but then also genetic predisposition. But then when we couple that with as developmentally going through middle school, high school, all the stressors of those times, the increased stressors with the extracurricular activities, grades, social media, we know takes a big toll on this. And then compounded with COVID-19 and what these poor kiddos experienced throughout that time between the isolation, being removed from peers, that adolescent time of their life is crucial for peer development, for peer interactions. That is most youth's life, is their peers. And so to be removed from that, removed from extracurricular activities, which is where they got a lot of their physical activity, we just saw a huge exponential increase in anxiety, depression, and as we're discussing, suicide rates. And so, these are really normal stressors to begin with that a lot of youth experiences. And then over the last couple of years, what's been added to that, it's no wonder that there is just a clear stress on these kids. And a lot of them don't know where to turn, which is really tragic in addition to it.
Yeah, and they don't know where to turn. Like you said, we're seeing this across the country. We're seeing these especially in some of the underserved communities. But you mentioned something, suicide rates. Suicide rates are going up across the country. The US Preventive Services Task Force is pushing now to have all children aged 8 and older screened for anxiety. And children's mental health is of course, being called a crisis and a national emergency. What do you say to this? And is this screening a good idea?
I do believe that the screening is actually beneficial because, quite frankly, I wish that we would have social skills classes. I wish we would have life skills classes, emotional intelligence classes. So I wish that this was rolled out on a larger scale in general. So I do think that the screening for anxiety is actually a great idea. Just like when you and I go into the doctors and we get asked questions about anxiety and depression. And the important aspect of this is that mental health is health. And we can't really reiterate that enough. And there's still such a stigma around it. And so when a child goes into the doctor's office and we're assessing all of these physical needs, we should also be assessing the mental health needs, which is with the anxiety. And often those anxiety symptoms lead to depressive symptoms, lead to withdrawal, isolation. And that's how we get to this sense of desperation and not knowing what to do with all of those emotions in their body. And so I do think that there is a lot of value in starting this early on, checking in. How are you doing? the doctor can intervene early on. And I think there's a lot of value to that.
Yeah, provided that the people that are doing the screening are actually educated in that field and can provide the proper assessment. As my fear as a mom is to have somebody that's either a pediatrician or a teacher assess my child for mental health when that's not their training. So that's yet to be determined. We'll see how that rolls out. But I agree. Yeah, early intervention is key. Now, over the last 3 decades, anxiety, depression, and suicide and self-harm have soared among teens specifically. And in 2019, the American Academy of Pediatrics issued a report noting that mental health disorders have now surpassed physical conditions as the most common issues causing impairment and limitations among adolescents. So that was an alarming read. And that predates the pandemic. And it means there needs to be a closer examination of other possible factors, including bingo, what you said in your previous answer, social media. What do you say to this?
Yes, it is not surprising at all. So when we think about when we were children and we think about those peer interactions and how stressful that already was, and worried about what people thought about us and what that was like when we showed up at school. Now, completely put this on a huger scale of this is happening to these individuals, these youth, every single day, every single minute of every single day. They have access to this platform, which puts them on display for criticism, for rejection, for all of these type of worst fear scenarios for us as humans, but especially as an adolescent who's still trying to figure their way through the world, right? Trying to still figure out self-esteem, trying to figure out how they fit in. And so the social media aspect, for sure, the bullying that takes place, the cyberbullying, has led to certainly increased concerns with mental health and even suicide rates. And so it's truly an issue. It comes down to what do we do about it? Because social media is not going anywhere, and that is for sure. And so I think to your point of the early intervention, we need to be more intentional with providing education for parents. We need to be more intentional with even reaching youth with some education, because if a parent isn't going to, parents can receive all the information all day long, but if they don't take it and translate it to their youth, there's no value in that. But if we can find ways to have social media accounts that talk about this, have ways to draw the youth in so that they're learning it on their own, that can be really valuable for helping them to navigate it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is limit social media use. And when you are using it with your kids, make sure you're using the right channels so that the right messages are conveyed. Great point. We have about 2.5 minutes left, and I want to cover something very specific here. It's the growing use of psychiatric medications in youth. And this is one metric of the adolescent mental health crisis, because from 2015 to 2019, prescriptions for antidepressants rose close to 40% for teenagers, compared with only 15% for adults. And this is according to Express Scripts, right? So some health experts have expressed alarm that nationwide major psychiatric drugs are so widely prescribed to children and adolescents, even though many of these medications have not been studied for their combined or long-term effects. And they also worry that some of these antidepressants have been shown to increase the risk of suicide among children. Prozac carries a black box warning of such risks. You have about 2 minutes. What do you say to this?
I would say all of that is true. And also our kids are in need. And so when they are dealing day in and day out with symptoms of anxiety and depression, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to manage it. They don't know where to turn. We do have to get them help. Ideally, this help would come in the form of therapy, early intervention, helping parents to be more aware of these concerns so that they can connect with and talk with these kids early on about these concerns. They can be a safe place for their kids. However, because that is not happening in the way that it needs to be happening, there are a lot of times when medication is necessary. Is it being overused? I would possibly say my personal opinion is yes, but is there still at the same time a need for it? Absolutely. To be able to help children to reduce social anxieties, to reduce depressive symptoms so they can just get up and show up to school. There is a need there. And so it's a double-edged sword that I don't think that, unfortunately, there's a clear answer to.
Yeah, well, it's true. You're right. I think every situation you have to assess individually and take it from there. And that's why, because psychiatrists are scarce here and nationwide, 70% of counties in the U.S. lack a psychiatrist specializing in children or adolescents, and the psychiatrists who can be found are concentrated in wealthier areas with many accepting only private payments. So we know that this is a problem, and we know that we have to have trained professionals like yourself. So thank you so much for piping in. It was very enlightening chatting with you. We are out of time. I'd love to have you come back on again. But honestly, speaking to another fellow mom who does this for a living, it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that there's people like you out there really tending to our children's mental health. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Guys, will the 988 number save more lives? Well, I believe that similar to 911, dialing 988 could make it easier in a moment of crisis to access help and support. Every moment counts. That was My Healthy Minutes, brought to us by Revere Securities. Please follow Dr. Elizabeth Federick. Check her out on the gram at Dr. Elizabeth Federick, or head to evolvecounselingaz.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CCP Digital, bringing you a view from inside blockchain, cryptocurrency, and NFTs. Introducing the latest Blockchain Heroes series, Retro Rebellion NFT collectible card packs from the Nifty Company. Available January 2022. Find out more online at ccpdigital.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to Crypto Frontiers segment, brought to us by CCP Digital, where we are welcoming back our regular contributor, CEO of CCP Digital, Chris Pulley. And today he is joined by Eben Matthews, co-founder of Macroverse.world, a multi-format entertainment company. And as per his bio, he is a super humble, creative genius. I love it. Now at Macroverse, their focus is on story-driven content designed to connect with audiences and fans. The Macroverse app propelled comics into the digital age and focuses on storytelling crafted for mobile devices. You'll get to experience digital comics, collectibles, and storytelling on the blockchain. Today, we're chatting about the coming of Web 3.0, entertainment studios entering the space, what role blockchain plays in the future of entertainment, and how Web 3.0 is creating opportunities for global participation in the entertainment industry. We'll also chat IP rights for creator, past and future. Now, we all know that Web3 promises to be a game changer in the evolution of the internet. At its core, Web 3.0 is a vision for a more open, decentralized, and secure internet, which is enabled by advances in technologies like blockchain and machine learning. Now, if you really think of it, the applications seem limitless, especially in the context of the entertainment industry. That's my strength. And here to chat some more are my friends Chris Pulley and Eben Matthews. Welcome to the show, superstars.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Zen. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Okay, Eben, I'll start with you, my honorary guest. Although the extent of Web3's impact on the future of entertainment is really yet to be seen, it's poised to critically alter several key aspects of the industry. So let's chat changing incentive structures. Now, there's compelling evidence that Web3 is going to give rise to new incentive structures for entertainers and their fans. Now, increasingly, fans and other audience members really want to be active participants in the entire entertainment creation process, basically from idea to distribution. And thanks to NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which are at the heart of Web3, fans can realize this objective and become long-term investors in an entertainer's success. Talk to me about how these NFTs create new lucrative incentive structures for already popular entertainers.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I think it speaks to a broader, thing that's kind of happening both in the crypto world and the NFT world, but also just across what we've seen happen over the past decade in web and social media and a kind of creator economy, that we've all kind of seen rise, where just in Web 2.0, there was the first kind of opportunity for people to chart their own path, to kind of create their own audience, to, you know, find ways in some cases to monetize those audiences, whether it's, you know, influencer culture or, you know, being able to take something and develop it as a YouTube series and ultimately turn it into a, you know, quote unquote, you know, real TV show. You know, so there have been those sorts of opportunities that have come out of the last kind of shift in technology and culture. But now what we're talking about is a massive change where the people that are actually at the heart of creating these things and then making them become something that touches culture and propagates out into the world, that the people that participate at every level benefit from the success of the thing they're participating in. So you said participation. We like to think of this, especially like in the context of what we're building at Macroverse, we kind of think of it as the participation economy, where ownership is a piece of that, but participation is the key that unlocks kind of every level of how you can benefit from the success of these different projects.
I love that. The participation economy. You should coin that and make it exclusive to Macroverse. Now, this jerks
we're trying.
Yeah, this jerks my memory. In March of 2021, this is a great point. An art NFT from entertainer Lindsay Lohan was purchased for $17,000. Now, the seller immediately put it back for sale and made $78,000, essentially evidence that not only creators, super fans are buying their NFTs, but that, you know, this is for an investment opportunity. And new platforms are also helping to change incentive structures that have long been misaligned in the entertainment industry. A great one comes to mind, Royal, which enables users to purchase shares of songs through its marketplace and earn royalties as the music that they have invested in gains popularity. So that's an interesting one. Chris, this one's for you. We've talked often about DAOs. So decentralized autonomous organizations are also quickly emerging. And DAOs are these collective decision-making bodies that really enable entertainers to interact directly with fans and influencers to become front seat participants in the process of creating and promoting an entertainment project. A great example, Dreams Never Die Records, which is led by the folks behind Before the Data, which has helped discover entertainers like Billie Eilish, is one of several newly launched decentralized autonomous organizations aimed at entertainers. Talk to me about the importance of these DAOs as you are seeing it from behind the scenes at your digital marketing analytics agency.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Zen. It's interesting that the decentralized autonomous organization is just another business entity with a specific purpose in mind. And so from an entertainment perspective, it's a collective that says we're looking to invest in this certain type of IP. And as IP is presented, then the DAO can all vote and make decisions together. And it's just a new way to participate in, let's say, the investment side of almost any industry utilizing the DAO format. But in the entertainment industry in particular, it's interesting because it's such an attractive industry and it's so difficult to enter. And it's got a lot of boundaries around it in its current industrial format. And that's why I'm so excited about Macroverse, is because I really don't have a creative bone in my body. And I would never have imagined myself in the entertainment industry. But today, with the participation economy, I'm able to make investments into these NFT characters, offer them out to a global audience that would like to use my characters to create stories with. And then I'm basically supporting, sponsoring a young creator, a creator from anywhere in the world that wants to participate. And if their character enters into the Macroverse storylines, they make money and I get to participate with them as well. It's super exciting, both from the DAO perspective and the different ways to participate.
Beautiful. It's a win-win for all, I say.
Yeah. Okay, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to something actually that is very that hits close to home as an artist and as an entertainer. So, Eben, let's chat changing ownership structures. So, in Web 1 and Web 2, entertainment content has been overwhelmingly controlled by platform giants. But in Web 3, the hope is that ownership will shift from stingy platforms to creators, although time will be, the true arbiter of whether this aspiration comes to fruition. We were speaking earlier, Taylor Swift's loss of ownership over her original songs, which prompted her to re-record 6 of her albums, offers a stark insight into the broken ownership structures inherent to the entertainment industry. And in theory, Web3 can enable a world where artists don't have to fight to secure power and ownership rights over their work. What do you say to this, and where do you see us heading?
So I think that the future of entertainment is a broad spectrum. I think we have to be careful that we not think it's all going to be one thing or something else. And so, we coined one term here as the participation economy. We also think of this as a participation spectrum. And so what we believe the future of entertainment is that there are going to be people that prioritize ownership and governance. So you got one side of the spectrum, which is like, I want to get my hands dirty. I want to have a say over what happens here. I want to tell stories. I want to make content. I want to have something to do with what happens with this material that goes out in the world. And then you've got all the way on the other side of the spectrum, which is, I think there will still be a large audience for, I want to pay my $15 a month and just have access. So you've got ownership on one side, you got access on the other side, and then you've got this huge area in the middle. And this is the part that doesn't exist right now, which is how do you move along that spectrum? So if I'm a super fan of, Stranger Things or, something else, I am a super fan of Star Wars, so we'll use that. If I'm a super fan of Star Wars and I want to go from, passive audience member to having some sort of control, ownership, governance, something to say about that world, that universe, there is no way for me to do that except to go through these very, very, very narrow doors to become a kind of traditional writer, director, producer, someone that would kind of go into Disney and do that. And that creates a very, very closed opportunity for the majority of fans to actually feel like they have anything to say about this thing that they love. So I think the real opportunity and the way we're approaching this at Macroverse is to give those people a much broader set of opportunities to be able to get involved. And so whether it's truly at the creator, owner, person that's making the content side of things, or it's someone like Chris was saying that owns some characters and wants to make them available and collaborate with another set of creators, or it's someone that just wants to be a part of the community and get some benefit from participating and, hanging out and enjoying the good vibes. Everywhere along that spectrum, there's bigger, better opportunities, not just to participate as a fan, but to actually realize some value back in multiple ways through that process. So I think that opportunity to kind of find your place in these things that we love and then reap some rewards and some benefits that are commensurate with the participation and the activity that you put into it is a massive opportunity for a massive kind of shift of paradigm around all this stuff. And that's the thing that keeps me super excited.
Yeah, that makes total sense when you put it in perspective like that. I totally see. I see the potential in that respect, and I see the participation that you're talking about because it's right there. It's tangible. You could feel it, and it really feels like it's hitting close to home. All right, we have about 2 minutes left. Chris, let's talk about these new monetization channels. So Web3 also enables new monetization channels. That's a fact, especially ones that are not guarded by these stalwart intermediaries. So traditionally, radio stations have had enormous say over which songs get airtime. Similarly, record labels are infamous for limiting artists' choice, and streaming platforms have developed a reputation for changing their discovery algorithms, and this is crazy statistics, so that entertainers are left in the dark as to how to increase the visibility of the content. The result has been that entertainers have needed to, indirectly or directly relinquish a lot of their potential earnings to intermediaries. And according to Kadeem Clark, who's the head of labs at Momentum 6, less than 0.2% of musicians earn more than $50,000 per year. A similar state of affair exists for other types of entertainers too. Talk to me about how Web3 can monetize, how Web 3.0 monetization channels can help entertainers be more fairly compensated for their work. You have about a minute.
Oh, fantastic. And this really encapsulates everything we've talked about here this morning. is the fact that the decentralized autonomous organization is one way to participate, et cetera, going forward. You mentioned about an NFT being purchased and then resold at a profit. And that's kind of, I think, what most people think about right now with Web3, buy something, a collectible, and sell it. What's happening now with the advancement of the Web3 technologies and the strategies behind it that Eben here and Macroverse are instilling is the ability to invest in an NFT that is a piece of potential IP that can be interrelated into other content, and find where you participate, writer, creator. I guess if I'm buying them and then offering them out, it's kind of agent or scout. And it's just the technology is allowing people to enter the space from wherever and whatever their desire is. And it's why Macroverse was such a pick for us. We've just highly invested in the idea, the opportunity over the last year and a half, and seeing it come to fruition. People, it's the community. It's not the control of the big box company. It's the community that's saying what IP they like. Let's cheerlead it on. So it's really interesting to see how the technology has really given more power right back to that audience on what's going to be created and which direction it goes. It's very interesting to see it all turn on its head, and kudos to Eben and Macroverse, who, from what we can tell, have really leading the path of how this participation of all different channels can happen here in this entertainment industry.
Yeah, you said it. Power to the people. Well, listen, another great segment. We're out of time. I could listen to both of you speak all day because you are so full of insight. And if there's experts out there in the field, you guys definitely are two of them. So thank you so much for coming on. Eben, it was such a pleasure having you. Chris, you know how I feel about you, buddy.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.
Absolutely. Guys, that was our Crypto Frontier segment brought to you by CCP Digital. That was Chris Pulley, CEO of CCP Digital, along with his good friend, Eben Matthews, co-founder of Macroverse.world. Please definitely check them out, Macroverse.world. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CCP Digital, bringing you a view from inside blockchain, cryptocurrency, and NFTs. Introducing the latest Blockchain Heroes series, Retro Rebellion NFT collectible card packs from the Nifty Company. Available January 2022. Find out more online at ccpdigital.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams, welcoming back to my Crypto Frontier segment brought to us by CCP Digital. We are featuring Chris Pulley, CEO of CCP Digital, and his good friend, Eben Matthews, co-founder at Macroverse.world. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank
Zen.
you.
All right. Well, let's continue and pick up this conversation. Now, the entertainers and entertainment platforms that are going to embrace Web3 will be the ones that thrive in the years ahead. And by enabling transformative change in incentives, ownership structure, and monetization channels, many have high hopes that Web3 is going to create a more equitable and empowering ecosystem for entertainers to thrive in. Now, the key is going to be rewarding fans early when they're willing to be and bet on a creator's future success and enabling them to share in this success as it's realized over time. That's what we've really been talking about. Now, in the early stages of Web3 and NFT adoption, intellectual property continues to be a conversation that really presents questions surrounding ownership, all right? And there's no question that our traditional media landscape is broken, which only makes sense as to why industry professionals are suddenly and really impulsively flocking to the metaverse. Now, intellectual property, IP, seems to be a powerful solution that can empower the industry to be better than it has in the past. Gentlemen, talk to me about how Web3 is that second chance to do things right, beginning with fixing the unbalanced relationship between creators and consumers. Eben, you go first.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is an area of immense interest and passion for me personally and for our whole team. I think, the things that we've seen develop, and I think you can kind of understand why, but I think the technology has gotten to a point now where the infrastructure that exists right now, as you said, is broken, and it's time to kind of rethink that, reevaluate that. We've seen too many people that have been at the core of massive worldwide franchises, every media, type, whether that's music or film or TV or comics or anything you want to kind of point to. There's too many people that have created the things that millions of people around the world love, and have seen a tiny fraction of the results of that, financially, especially. So, going back, I'm a huge comics fan. A lot of what we're doing at Macroverse is starting in the kind of reinvention of the comics world, back to the very beginning of, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby creating, things like the Avengers and Iron Man, and, Jack Kirby in particular, dying basically penniless, at the end of his life. I mean, there are just too many examples of that across all of media. And so this is the chance to right that ship, to rethink, reinvent, reevaluate how we approach these things. And while there's a need for us as creators and builders to approach this with the right ethos and to, come at it from the point of view that we are going to do those things the right way this time, the real magic of this is that once it gets locked into a smart contract, and once this is immortalized at the kind of technology and blockchain level, no one can mess with it. And I think that is such a massive unlock for everyone, that it's like, I'm a creator at heart, but I've done enough business over the course of my career that it's like, you just want to get the paperwork out of the way so we can focus on, the actual creative work. But this is a way to do that on steroids, where it's like, great, we make a deal, we agree on a deal, it's locked in a smart contract, it's locked on the blockchain forever. No one ever has to think about it again. And that is such a magic for everyone in this industry. And if you project that a little bit further out, where, every time a song gets played on a streaming service, every time a comic gets read on Macroverse, every time video streams on Netflix, that transaction is codified on the blockchain and distributed to the people that it's meant to be distributed to. Hollywood accounting goes away. All the kind of, rigmarole of, lawsuits goes away, the people trying to recover the things that they believe that they should have had to begin with. This concept of the creators not being invested in or participating in the life cycle of this as it goes out and grows and develops goes away. It just handles so many of those challenges that we can get to the real meat of everything, which is making stuff that people love and that people want to be engaged in, and, helping them, fulfill their own ambitions. So it's a massive piece of what we're building. It's a massive piece of what the opportunity is for entertainment. And it's something we're very excited about, super passionate about.
I could tell. I love it. I love the enthusiasm. And, at the core of it, when you're thinking about NFTs, I mean, all genres and types of content can thrive as NFTs if, and this is my belief, if and only if there is deep thought and care put into the storyline and it relates, directly to the individual. Chris, what are your thoughts here about, this fixing things, beginning with fixing the unbalanced relationship between creators and consumers?
Yeah, it's exactly why I'm here and participating with Macroverse. This is really the hot button in general. And Eben, I don't know if we got to his background, but he's been eating, drinking, and sleeping the entertainment industry his entire career, at the top of the food chain and working with the top of the talent in the industry. And so he really brought light in to some of the challenges that the industry has inherently. And then the blockchain, the Web3 component, everything he just described, he's implemented. This is already working. We're already getting original IP creators locked into what their percentages are. And as things are sold, whether it's an NFT or whether it's a credit card purchase on the app in the future, it will all come back and be able to automatically pay each participant that's involved in that. And for me, it's just bigger than us. This is a chance, not just Macroverse, the industry as a whole, but Macroverse is leading this as far as I'm concerned, that it's a global opportunity to enter the entertainment industry with literally low to no barrier of entry. And so there's no excuse if you're a creator. There's no excuse now. If you find us to get in and participate, because it's just pulled the barriers down and all of the cost associated. And that's probably the most exciting part for me is we're decentralizing the Hollywood business model, making it more fair globally, and then offering a way to participate and get access where you don't have to fly to LA and risk your whole life for the first few years, waiting tables, et cetera, until you make it. And so it's just so exciting because I love to help and support people. And then selfishly, I'm really enjoying the creative fun part of this business while helping the business itself.
Yeah, you definitely are. And you're definitely passionate. You're going from conference to conference, stating your piece, looking under the hood of all of these companies that you are taking on, investing and representing, really looking under the hood and making sure that the teams and the infrastructure is in place, which is never an easy thing to find in business today in general. So finding the right team and finding the right companies, it's like picking a needle out of a haystack. And you've done a great job, Chris Pulley. And turning to the next question of ownership. So we have already begun to see some of the complexities in understanding what attributes and rights NFTs carry from issuer to holder. So right now, the legal landscape is faced with these questions, forcing the courts to address the direct relationship between trademark protection and NFTs, as seen in the ongoing litigation between Miramax and Quentin Tarantino, Nike and StockX, and even Hermes and Mason Rothschild. So, much of the confusion seems to stem from what rights are actually being transferred to a holder upon purchase, begging the question of how sophisticated the underlying NFT smart contracts actually are versus what the issuer is communicating to their community. Gray waters. What do you say to this?
Gray waters indeed. So look, I think the reality is this is a very early stage of this industry. People are still figuring out a lot of kind of how these different models work. And I don't think there is any right answer to this. So I think, there are going to be different projects, different communities, different use cases that approach this in different ways. And so you've got, again, sort of, we can talk about spectrums again, but we think, there's kind of one side of things, which is, CCO. And that means, kind of there are no really protected underlying rights. And so anyone can do anything with these things. They can commercialize them. They can make them their own. They can do whatever they want with them. And there's a lot of benefits to projects that are built that way. And then there's, stuff on the other side, which is more of, I think, where we're seeing most of these lawsuits is it's more in the entrenched existing organizations trying to protect what they feel like they should keep control over. And that's something we've been dealing with way before NFTs and blockchain. It's, people doing fan fiction, it's people doing fan art. Like, these are the same kinds of concerns that existing IP holders have when someone goes out and tries to do something new with that material. And I think, the course that we're trying to chart, and I think a lot more projects will kind of follow suit in, is an interesting blend of the two, where there are areas where we want to encourage massive amounts of exploration and creativity. And, in our case, if you mint one of our characters, you can go do whatever you want with that character, commercialize it, make it your own, do whatever you want, literally you own the underlying IP to that character to any degree that you want to do something with it. Yet, if you come and work with us and develop a character that exists inside of one of the franchises that we're developing, that we do have a certain amount of say over what happens with, that we want to make sure has a kind of cohesive vision that can fulfill on film and television and comics and games and kind of build this larger integrated franchise. If you choose to bring your character and plug into that, then there are some trade-offs. Like, you get a lot more upside because you get to participate and be a part of this, kind of canon or official, piece of the franchise. But, we're going to have a certain amount of collaborative control over then what happens with that character. So it's like, we like to use the example of if you created Boba Fett and it wasn't part of Star Wars, well, Boba Fett could go be a, restaurant. It could go be a, car dealership. It could be whatever you want it to be. But if you bring Boba Fett to Star Wars and it becomes part of the canon, and now there are, TV shows and there are toys and there are all these things under that umbrella, then now we want to be in a collaborative relationship where everybody's going to win together and it all makes sense. All of a sudden there's not, a restaurant that is confusing to the audience or to the, other collaborators. But the big unlock is in that scenario, if you created Boba Fett and it goes on to become a TV show, instead of, in that case, Disney owning 99.99999999999% of all of that creation, you would continue to have your stake in it and participate across every exploitation of that character. So that's a massive wealth building opportunity for the people that choose to really put in that participation and effort to, build that thing out. So I think those are the areas to kind of think about. And I think that, every project has to make those decisions in a way that aligns with what their ambitions are, what their goals are, and what's best for the community as a whole. And if you can kind of thread that needle, then there are lots of different ways that can work.
You got me sold. You're definitely you preaching to the choir here, because this is right up my alley. My daughter owns land in the metaverse. She's 6. She's on Roblox. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, we're out of time, but I want to thank you guys for both coming on. Chris, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. Eben, so nice to chat with you today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. If they ever wanted to be a game developer, a movie producer, or comic creator, I'd say check out macroverse.world and just see what the next generation entertainment studios look like.
Oh, it's definitely at Macroverse. All right. That was our Crypto Frontier segment brought to us by CCP Digital. Now, remember, guys, under federal copyright law, there are 6 exclusive rights afforded to any copyright holder, which also include the right to reproduce, prepare derivative works, and, of course, the right to distribute the work. While most NFT holders do not have the right to fully commercialize their purchased NFTs or prepare derivative works with them, some believe that there's a way it can be done. In this case, through a royalty-free license and partnership with a digital anti-counterfeiting and copyright protection technology known as Rev3AL. Check that out for my gurus out there. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
If you've missed out dining in New York City for the past year, it's time to visit the legendary Vice Cucina. Located in the heart of Midtown, Vice specializes in blending delicious Northern Italian and American cuisine with dishes such as the incredible taglione lobster, ravioli masala, ossobuco, and pappardelle al telefono, along with many other mouthwatering offerings. You deserve a great night out. Call Vice Cucina 212-757-2600 or online at vicecucina.com.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Hi There, a creative community exploring the culture, craft, and science of cannabis. Hi There believes that we have a collective responsibility towards eradicating the stigma, misinformation, and inequities surrounding this plant so we can unlock its true potential for all. To become involved and find out what all the excitement is about, download the Hi There app from the App Store and Google Play. Hi There, HIGHTHERE.
And that's a wrap, my dear friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. or go to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A Moment of Zen. And remember, we're now on TV. Download the KP Media TV app on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, or Android TV, and you can tune in at impact.kpmedia.tv and catch A Moment of Zen on the Impact Live channel Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern, bright and early. All episodes are now available on demand. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that make the show happen. And remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.